Amara had everything a woman could ever want: wealth, status, and a life of luxury. Married to Chief Ebuka, a successful businessman and politician, she lived in a mansion most people could only dream of. But despite all the gold and diamonds, something was missing: love, passion, excitement. Her marriage had long lost its spark. Chief Ebuka was a man of power, always preoccupied with business meetings, political gatherings, and endless travels. He provided for her, but he never truly saw her. He barely touched her anymore, treating her more like a prized possession than a wife. Loneliness became her silent companion until she met him. Jidena, the gym instructor at the elite fitness club she had recently joined. From the first day she walked into the gym, he had captured her attention. Tall, dark, and sculpted like a god, Jidena moved with confidence and charm. He was everything Chief Ebuka was not: playful, attentive, and dangerously handsome. At first it was harmless, just casual conversations, lingering eye contact, and the way he smiled at her, making her feel young again. But soon, the harmless flirtation turned into something deeper. One evening, after an intense workout, she lingered in the gym longer than usual. Jidena walked up to her, handing her a bottle of water. "You're improving, madam," he said, his voice smooth like honey. She laughed. "You make it sound like I was terrible before." He leaned in slightly, his eyes locking with hers. "Not terrible, just restrained. But I can help you loosen up." A shiver ran down her spine. She should have walked away. She should have reminded herself she was a married woman. But she didn't. Instead, she let herself drown in his gaze, in the thrill of something forbidden. That night, as she lay beside her husband in their grand but loveless bed, her mind was filled with thoughts of Jidena, his voice, his touch, the way he made her feel seen. She knew she was stepping onto dangerous ground, but for the first time in years, she felt alive. Amara found herself going to the gym more frequently. At first, she convinced herself it was for fitness, but deep down, she knew the truth: it was for him. Jidena played his role well. He never crossed the line too quickly, never pressured her. Instead, he let the tension build, giving her stolen moments of attention, lingering touches when adjusting her posture, and whispers that sent heat through her veins. One evening, as they stretched in a quiet corner of the gym, she felt his hands on her waist, steadying her. His breath was warm against her neck. "You're tense, madam. Relax." Her heart pounded. She turned to face him, their eyes meeting in an unspoken challenge. His fingers brushed against her arm, slow and deliberate. "You enjoy teasing me, don't you?" she whispered. He smirked. "I enjoy making you feel things you've forgotten." Before she could respond, a voice interrupted them. "Madam Amara, your driver is waiting outside." She jolted back to reality. A gym staff member stood nearby, unaware of the electric moment he had just shattered. Flustered, she stepped away from Jidena and grabbed her bag. As she left the gym, she glanced back. Jidena was watching her, a knowing smile on his lips. That night, she didn't sleep. Her mind raced with thoughts of him, of the way he looked at her, the way he made her feel. She was losing control, and she didn't want to stop. Amara had never felt so alive. The days after her encounter with Jidena at the gym were filled with an excitement she hadn't felt in years. She found herself smiling at random moments, thinking about the way he had looked at her, the way his fingers had brushed against her skin, sending shivers through her body. She told herself it was nothing, just harmless admiration. But deep down, she knew better. Chief Ebuka, her husband, barely noticed the changes in her. He was too occupied with his businesses, his political ambitions, and his endless meetings. Their marriage had long lost the passion it once held, replaced with the routine conversations about expenses, events, and societal expectations. Amara had played her role as the perfect wife for years, but something in her had begun to crack. She found herself making excuses to visit the gym more often, ensuring she scheduled her sessions at the time Jidena was available. He noticed, of course. How could he not? Amara was stunning. A smooth caramel skin, high cheekbones, and curvy figure turned heads wherever she went. Jidena, ever the charmer, didn't hide his growing interest. "You're making progress," he said one afternoon, watching as she struggled with her squats. He stepped behind her, his hands lightly brushing her waist as he adjusted her posture. Her breath caught in her throat. She could feel the warmth of his body, the strength in his hands. "I try," she murmured, avoiding his gaze. He chuckled. "You do more than try, Amara. You're incredible." She swallowed hard, stepping away under the pretense of grabbing her water bottle. She needed to clear her head. This was dangerous territory, but Jidena was persistent. Over the next few weeks, he found ways to draw her in: compliments, stolen touches, lingering gazes. He was smooth, experienced, and completely aware of the effect he had on her. And she was slipping, sinking deeper into temptation with every passing day. One evening, after another intense workout session, Jidena leaned in closer than necessary, his voice low and intimate. "I think about you more than I should." Amara's heart pounded. She should walk away. She should remind herself of who she was, of the life she had built with Chief Ebuka. But instead, she looked up at Jidena and whispered, "Me too?" And just like that, the line between right and wrong began to blur. Amara sat in the dimly lit corner of a high-end restaurant, her fingers wrapped around a glass of red wine. Across from her, Jidena leaned back in his chair, his confident smirk never leaving his face. He had taken her to one of the most exclusive spots in town, a place where only the rich and powerful dined. And she was both. But tonight, she didn't feel like a woman of status. She felt like a woman drowning in a dangerous attraction. "You're thinking too much again," Jidena said, reaching out to tuck a stray curl behind her ear. His touch sent shivers down her spine. Amara sighed, shaking her head. I don't know how much longer we can keep doing this. If Ebuka finds out..." "He won't," Jidena interrupted smoothly. "Your husband is too busy chasing contracts and political connections to notice what's happening right under his nose." His words should have reassured her, but instead, they unsettled her. Chief Ebuka was many things: powerful, controlling, ruthless. But he was not stupid. If he ever suspected that his wife was betraying him, the consequences would be severe. Jidena, however, seemed unconcerned. He was used to this game. Amara wasn't his first married woman, and she wouldn't be his last. But to her, this affair was unlike anything she had ever done before. It was reckless. It was intoxicating. And she wasn't sure she could stop. That night, she didn't return home until late. When she stepped into the grand mansion she shared with her husband, she found Chief Ebuka waiting for her in the living room. He was sipping his usual glass of whiskey, his piercing gaze locking onto her the moment she walked in. "You're late," he said, his voice calm, but laced with something dangerous. "I was with Ada," Amara lied effortlessly, shrugging off her coat. Chief Ebuka studied her for a long moment before nodding. I see. She turned to leave, but his next words made her pause. Be careful, Amara. Lagos is a small place. Her heart stopped for a second, but she forced herself to keep walking, her mind racing. Had he found out? Was he just testing her? She needed to be more careful. But even as fear crawled up her spine, she knew one thing for sure. She wasn't ready to let go of Jidena just yet. Amara sat on the edge of her bed, her heart pounding violently in her chest. Chief Ebuka had left for an impromptu business trip, and she was supposed to feel relief, but instead an eerie sense of dread settled over her. Her affair with Jidena had escalated dangerously, and for the first time she was beginning to question everything. Was it love, or was she just a pawn in a game she barely understood? A message popped up on her phone. It was from an unknown number. Madam, come to Peak Hotel. You need to see something. Her fingers trembled as she clutched the device. Her first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity and fear got the better of her. After all, what could be worse than the shame she was already drowning in? With a quick glance at the clock, she grabbed her car keys and drove out into the night. When she arrived at the hotel, the receptionist directed her to room 206. The corridor felt endless, each step heavy with foreboding. She knocked hesitantly, and the door swung open almost instantly. The sight before her made her blood run cold. Jidena was in bed with another woman, his arms draped lazily over her bare shoulders. The woman, a stunning younger girl, looked at Amara with a sly smile, as if she had been expecting her. Amara's stomach lurched as Jidena sat up, unfazed by her presence. Ah, Madam Amara, he said coolly, reaching for a cigarette. I was wondering when you'd find out. Amara's throat felt dry. What is this? She managed to whisper. This. Jidena gestured around the room with a smirk. This is reality. Did you really think you were special? That you're the only one? He let out a low chuckle. Come on, Amara. You're a rich, lonely woman looking for excitement. But I am a businessman. Her hands shook as anger and humiliation crashed over her like a violent wave. You used me? Used? That's such an ugly word, he said, exhaling a cloud of smoke. Let's call it an arrangement. And to be fair, you got what you wanted too, didn't you? A fresh wave of nausea hit her. It all made sense now. The calculated way he had seduced her. The way he made her feel wanted, desired. It had never been about love. It had always been a game. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the realization that she had risked everything, her marriage, her dignity, her peace, for a man who had never cared. As she turned to leave, a thought gnawed at her. Chief Ebuka must never find out, because if he did, the price she would pay would be far worse than heartbreak. With her head held high, Amara walked out of the room, leaving Jidena and his deceit behind. But deep inside, she knew this wound would never fully heal. What lesson did you take from today's tale? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments section. Join us again for more timeless African folktales, where every story carries a hidden truth. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Evergreen African Folktale. Thanks for watching. See you soon with another exciting story.